Welcome to the Wakefield Doctrine, the theory of Clarks, Scotts, and Rogers. Okay, this is take 4. I'll make it quick. Well, it's right now 9:07 Eastern Daylight Time. I will look and see 9:13 and stop wherever I am. We're doing this because tomorrow is Finish the Sentence Friday, which is, as everyone knows, is one of the Doctrine favorites. That's Janine and Kate and Stephanie and Dawn who do that Finish the Sentence Friday thing. You should participate, but who am I? I'm a Clark. I'm speaking from a videotape from behind the camera, in the camera, whatever, on the camera. And I'm doing that because the topic these days is secondary aspects. And we've talked a little bit, we've written a little bit about the idea that we all know, all right, basic doctrine, one of 3 characteristic worldviews, Clark, Scott, or Roger, outsider, predator, herd member. The predominant, we call it, predominant worldview is the reality you wake up to this morning. If you're a Clark, you wake up as the outsider, etc., for the Scotts and the Rogers. Okay, we all get that. And the other point is that we never lose the capacity to see the world as the other 2 see them. In my case, that would be a Scott and a Roger. So great, where does that leave us? It leaves us with the most important thing, second most important thing about the Wakefield Doctrine is it useful to you personally? I mean, we know the first most important thing is that it is useful to you to understand the behavior of the people in your lives. We use the expression, oh man, how could they do something like that? I really thought I knew them better than that. That is what the Wakefield Doctrine is meant to get rid of, make unnecessary, get you around, fill in the blank for that thing. We all experience that, and the Wakefield Doctrine says that if you understand the person's predominant worldview, you will know them better than they know themselves. And we say that because what that better than them themselves thing is, that just means that they may know what they're doing, you know why they're doing it. And we could do posts and hours on each one, and we have. we have, damn it. We've got 700 plus of these things talking about why a Scott acts the way they do, ruff, and why a Roger acts the way they do, moo, and why Clarks act the way they do. That's a little Clark joke for all the Clarks out in the listening audience. Write me a comment to tell me that you guys found that amusing. You probably did, but it'll be Riley amusing. And Riley hardly ever generates comments. Scots are good for reacting because they'll laugh. Great laughs, by the way, for Scots. Clarks will work for the laugh of a Scot. Rogers laugh appreciatively, but, you know, there's a price to pay there. Where was I? Oh, yeah, okay. Predominant worldview. We've established that. Secondary aspects, tertiary aspects. The main thing about that is we all have the capacity. That doesn't mean that we have a balance. The Clarks out there will understand that, what I'm saying here, because, you know, Clarks look for symmetry, we look for rational kind of balance. No reason for a person to have any significant secondary or tertiary aspect. They will have a predominant no matter what. I have a friend who's a Scot, no secondary, tertiary, well, maybe a tertiary appearing. And we also know that around here, the doctrine, I think Michelle mentioned that in a comment, is that what did she mention in the comment? The fact that you don't have to have a secondary, or the fact that people who read this either are Clarks or have a secondary Clark-like aspect of significant enough level to have the curiosity that we bring, that our worldview is based on. Boy, I botched that one up, huh? Well, I'm going to just push right along. However, if you do have a secondary aspect or a tertiary, consider a friend of the doctrine over in the UK. Put the question simply as, how do you tell which aspect is your secondary if you do have a secondary aspect? I'm paraphrasing now. The same way you tell the predominant worldview. You try them out, guys. You look at behavior. You see the most obvious fit. You see if it's consistent. You're a little more involved with your secondary aspect because what you're doing really is looking to the anomalous behavior. I've got a friend at work. She's a Clark. but she really gets into genealogy. And I don't mean it in the Clark-like sense. I mean as in the pictures of gravestone, love of old people, dead people, history, tradition. Those, as we all know, we should know, those are Rogerian characteristics. I got one more minute. So your first guess was, wait a minute, that sounds kind of Rogerian. Now, if you're sure that the predominant is, in this case, Clark, and then I would nominate her for being a secondary person with a secondary Rogerian aspect. Then you just test. It's just like what you do with anybody for the first time. And here's a quick lesson. You see somebody, you're looking for predominant worldview. You got three choices. They could be a Clark, Scott, or Roger. Chances are you'll be able to eliminate one of the three real quick. And I'll leave you guys to decide how to do that or what the example would be. Then you're left with two. Maybe a Scott and a Roger, which is a common kind of conundrum. Oh man, one looks like the other sometimes. What you do then is, if you know your characteristics, and you better be by now, because otherwise all of this is pointless, and you're not listening at this point. Anyway, oh boy, accident. I'll wrap this up. So you look at the person, you got two possibilities, you try them on. Think of it as like when you get your eyes tested at the optimists. They try one lens, is this clearer? They try the other lens, is this blurrier? And you do that, and you just keep doing it until you see what you believe is their predominant worldview. You're inferring it. By the way, for you new readers, you cannot break this thing, and you cannot get it wrong. And I say that with total confidence, because I can. If you guess a person wrong, it just won't fit, and eventually you'll say, what the hell? And then you'll see that, okay, maybe that Roger really is a Scott, or vice versa. And the same with yourself. If you think to yourself, I betcha I'm a Roger, and it just doesn't feel right, or somebody keeps saying, hey Clark, it's all right, because you can't break it. It doesn't change, your reality. And this is the final thing I will say. It's a real basic doctrine. When we talk about worldviews, we're talking personal realities. I make a joke about how everybody lives in a reality that's slightly different from the common reality that we all share. But there's a degree of personalness to it that we characterize as being the outsider, Clark, predator, Scott, and the herd member, or Roger. But the key to all of this thing working, folks, is that for the Scott, the world is one of threat and prey. For a Clark, it isn't the choice to not realize that purple hair and spikes in your nose will work against you trying to get a job in an insurance company. It's a reality for them. So don't, and then there's the real value here. If you buy that, then you don't worry about trying to talk people into stuff. You don't worry about how the hell don't they understand what they should be doing. It's their reality. Accept that, everything else falls into place. I'm over time. I will see you guys around the campus.